Chapter 297 Epic Battle Against the Giant Spider. The swift star wolf had gone back to rest. If he were here, it would be easier for Mo Fan to handle the bewitching magic spider. He had no choice but to rely on himself for now. Even warrior-level beasts had disparities in terms of strength. For example, the cursed beast, mother-scale skin phantom, and three-eyed magic wolf were considered average among the warrior-level demon beasts. On the other hand, the pseudomorphing demon beast was considered warrior level, too, but its overwhelming strength was not something the group could handle right now. It was considered the strongest existence at the warrior level. As for the bewitching magic spider in front of him, judging from its aura alone, it should be stronger than the three normal warrior level demon beasts, but not as terrifying as the pseudomorphing demon beast. Mo Fan was wearing the focus necklace, so his mind was safe from being bewitched. Mu Ningzhu was obsessed with killing the beast, thus it would not make a difference if she were being bewitched or not. Without the bewitching effect, the warrior-level bewitching magic spider would not be too difficult to deal with. The priority now was to eliminate it as soon as possible, as they did not want the group to end up like the one-eyed magic wolves. The bewitching magic spider flung its front limbs out furiously, slashing forward in a crisscross motion like several sabers. It was standing 30 meters away from Mo Fan and Mu Ningzhu. Normally, it would not be able to reach them due to the distance. To their surprise, the bewitching magic spider was not as simple as it looked. The slashes from its limbs turned into two piercing shockwaves, forming a whirling airflow that flew toward Mo Fan and Mu Ningzhu. Mo Fan immediately rolled to the side in a panic, subconsciously tugging his neck down. He felt a cold breeze above him. He raised his head and saw the wall behind him sliding down from a clean cut. How sharp were those slashes? Mo Fan initially thought a demon beast that was hunting its prey by luring them into traps would not be too strong in combat. Little did he know, the previous slash had almost beheaded him on the spot. As for Mu Ningzhu, she tried to set up a barrier with the ice lock, but the sturdy chains were instantly cut in half and dropped to the ground as she lost control of them. Mu Ningzhu's ice lock was instantly nullified. The only move she had left was the wind element. She floated a safer distance away using wind track, and began to align a star pattern. Strong winds circulated around her body, slightly lifting her clothes and revealing her astonishing curves. Her eye-catching silver hair drifted in the wind. The mark on her forehead flickered as her eyes displayed a strong determination to kill. She had thoroughly transformed into an outraged wind fairy, whose single attack would result in a disaster of wind. The spirit-grade wind seed was even more brutal. It had summoned a destructive tornado covering the area within 100 meters under Mu Ningzhu's control. The wind disk, Sky Snare, was cast very quickly. It turned from a random breeze to a magnificent wind wall within a few seconds. The bewitching magic spider was right at the eye of the storm. It let out a sharp shriek and attacked the rapidly contracting wind wall with its claws. The wind wall converged quickly. The bewitching magic spider struck its limbs deeply into the ground to resist the force of the wind disk, which was capable of uprooting a whole building. The bewitching magic spider's grip was insanely strong. It was half crawling on the ground as the wind disk, Sky Snare, was tearing at its body. The wind disk, Sky Snare, lasted the longest among the intermediate spells. However, apart from a slight quiver, the bewitching magic spider did not end up being blown into the air. Mu Ningzhu frowned. The creature was way stronger than the normal warrior-level demon beasts. Most of the warrior-level beasts would not be able to survive the destructive force of a second-tier wind magic, which was further enhanced with a spirit-grade soul seed. Mo Fan, your turn, Mu Ningzhu said to Mo Fan, aware that her attack was not strong enough. Keep it busy. I believe it is very quick too, Mo Fan replied. The wind element had a huge area of effect. It was not as direct as the fire and lightning element. The perfectly unharmed bewitching magic spider served as a convincing proof to the statement. Rose Flame Fiery Fist, Groundbreak. Mo Fan cast his strongest move straight away. He accumulated the power of the fire element to his limit, before throwing the fiery punch at his target. The burning roses of death blossomed on the bewitching magic spider's location. The shocking blaze rapidly devoured the entire area as pillars of lava jetted from the ground. Groundbreak was also a destructive spell with a huge area of effect. Unfortunately, it was too easy to tell where it was coming from, as the energy would surge out from the ground before it took place. The bewitching magic spider had extremely sharp senses. It immediately crouched when it felt a strong heat coming from the ground below. The moment the ground break burst out, the bewitching magic spider leapt over 10 meters into the air. It was hard to imagine a bulky creature like that having such an incredible jumping ability. Only a tiny amount of lava from the ground break was spilled onto its hairy body, which could not even trigger an itch. "You have to freeze it." Mo Fan immediately backed off when he noticed the bewitching magic spider was leaping in his direction. To his surprise, the bewitching magic spider was relentless with its attack. It was surprisingly fast on the ground, too. The 8 limbs shuffled rapidly, sending up a continual splatter of soil behind it. Its speed was almost comparable to the mother-scale skin phantom. The only difference was, the mother-scale skin phantom was close to the size of a human, while the bewitching magic spider was more like an excavator. When such a massive beast was running, with its current momentum it could even smash a hill into pieces, let alone a human. Mo Fan did not dare to use his departing nether shield. He remembered once while he was scrolling through Weibo on his phone when he was bored, he saw a story where a little kid was trying out the sturdiness of his phone case. He struck the case a few times with a hammer, but the case was perfectly fine. However, when he turned the case around, the phone itself was shattered. It would be the same situation if he tried defending himself with the departing nether shield. The shield would be perfectly fine. Mo Fan had utter confidence in its quality since he had spent quite a fortune on it. However, the impact of the collision would still be enough to break his bones. Blood tabby. Mo Fan decided to use another piece of equipment. A crimson glow materialized and wrapped around Mo Fan's legs. The blood tabby connected itself with the blood vessels in Mo Fan's legs and inserted an outstanding force into them. Mo Fan felt his lower body fill with power. The bewitching magic spider charged toward him wildly, raising the tiny lumps, walls, and plants in the way. Its limbs were incredibly sharp, leaving nothing in its way in one piece. Mo Fan did not dare to underestimate the beast, darting toward the debris behind him. As he reached the debris, the bewitching magic spider was within inches from him. Mo Fan kicked the wall hard and leapt into the air above the bewitching magic spider. "Have a taste of this." Mo Fan had finished casting an intermediate fire spell in the middle of his backflip. His entire body was engulfed in flames. Chapter 298 Poisonous Rain. As he was hanging upside down in the air, the hideous brain of the bewitching magic spider was 10 meters right below him. Its eyes were glaring upwards, fixed on him. The bewitching magic spider was just about to raise its front limbs, but Mo Fan's fist was faster. Rose flame fiery fist, exploding heaven. The fist struck downward ferociously from the air, surging toward the bewitching magic spider's head. This time, it could not dodge the attack in time. It received Mo Fan's fiery fist right on the top of its skull. Not only was the fiery fist burning at a high temperature, it also contained an incredible force of impact. Mo Fan was knocked higher into the air by the repulsive force, while the bewitching magic spider slammed right into the ground, sinking into a burning pit. The flames thoroughly scorched its body. Mu Ningzhu stood a close distance away with her mouth open wide. This Mo Fan was way too ballsy. Any ordinary magician would not dare to use an intermediate magic like this. Leaving that aside, it was enough to prove how experienced Mo Fan was when fighting. Apart from his impressive agility, he was also able to control his magic freely. Many magicians stood at the same spot like wood piles when they were aligning their stars. They might be able to scare servant-class demon beasts away, but the time it took for them to cast the spell was enough for them to die a few times over to warrior-level demon beasts. Mo Fan's punch was rather powerful. It took the bewitching magic spider a prolonged period just to crawl out from the burning pit, despite its sturdy skin. Mu Ningzhu did not believe the bewitching magic spider would be killed by a single punch from Mo Fan. She immediately cast a wind element intermediate spell as it was recovering from the injury. Her ice element would be conflicting with Mo Fan's fire element. However, Mu Ningzhu's wind disc would fan the remaining flames instead. A wind disc. Sky Snare appeared once again. Its wind wall, with a diameter of close to 100 meters, contracted rapidly. It even drew in the flames from the fiery fist into the spinning tornado. A few moments later, the wall of the tornado had turned blazing red. It was no longer just a wind magic, but a shocking fiery twister. The flames grew even stronger as the wind continued to howl. When Mo Fan saw Mu Ningzhu was using his flames to intensify her wind magic, he immediately half-clenched his hands and summoned 2 fire bursts. Mo Fan hurled the burning bones, fire burst out, and they drew bright arcs in the middle of the night, colliding with the rapidly contracting wind disk, Sky Snare. "Keep it going," Mu Ningzhu said to Mo Fan. Mo Fan was definitely a pro at using the basic level spells. As soon as the fire burst merged with the raging tornado, another 2 flames ignited on his hands. Again, he tossed the flames at the tornado. Mo Fan was trying to keep the fire burning stronger while the wind magic lasted, in order to inflict sufficient damage on the bewitching magic spider. His stars continued to join along their path. Mo Fan had never cast fire burst at such an incredible rate. The consecutive fire bursts formed a continuous arc in front of him. He felt like he had turned into a fire-spitting Gatling gun, releasing all its ammo at a specific spot. Their combined power was on par with that of an intermediate spell. Mo Fan did not cast Fiery Fist, as its impact would instantly destroy Mu Ningzhu's wind magic. On the other hand, the fire bursts were just strong enough to merge with the tornado. In the end, the wind disk, Sky Snare drew fully in, and the eye of the storm slowly disappeared. The bewitching magic spider tried to root itself to the ground again with its sharp legs. However, this time, separate from the tearing of the howling winds, it was also suffering the burn from the flames. It was definitely torture for the bewitching magic spider, which preferred to stay in the water. The wind continued to grow stronger, finally dragging the bewitching magic spider off the ground and tossing it into the air. The hideous creature, half the size of a building, was rising slowly into the air. "I'm at my limit." Mu Ningzhu's face was slightly pale. Her wind disk, Sky Snare, could only last this long. Unfortunately, the bewitching magic spider was less than 10 meters from the ground. The impact from the fall would not be enough to kill it. "It's fine, let it fall," Mo Fan said. Mu Ningzhu took a deep breath. The wind disk, Sky Snare, dissipated inside one breath. The bewitching magic spider fell to the ground. It landed on its limbs, cushioning its fall and minimizing the damage. Its rows of eyes quickly turned and glared at Mu Ningzhu as it uttered a piercing shriek at her. Suddenly, the bewitching magic spider opened its mouth, which had been hidden somewhere on its face before. Despite its small size, it was filled with sharp poisonous fangs. The bewitching magic spider spat something out. Mo Fan could not see what it was at the start, but then realized it was some poisonous liquid with a closer look as it sprayed at Mu Ningzhu. The poisonous liquid poured close to Mu Ningzhu like a drizzling hose. Mu Ningzhu had no choice but to activate her protection equipment. A sacred golden glow wrapped around her body like a blossoming flower, granting her protection without any blind spots. Mo Fan had seen similar equipment at the auctions, but most of them could only shield the user from a specific direction. He could tell how rare Mu Ningzhu's equipment was, as it was able to form a full protective barrier around her entire body. The poisonous rain had no effect on the glowing shield, but as it slowly dribbled from the shield onto the ground, the grass nearby instantly turned black. Black bubbles slowly rose as the ground was corroded. The corpse of a one-eyed magic wolf nearby, which had only died a short time ago, turned into a puddle within a few seconds, leaving a pile of pitted bones behind. Mo Fan subconsciously recalled the pit filled with white bones as he saw the corrosive ability of the poisonous liquid. Could it be that the bewitching magic spider was purposely targeting beasts that lived in packs? It would let them fight among themselves first, before cleaning up their corpses? That must be it. It would let the tiny spiders bewitch its prey, and let them fight one another. It would then drag them back here to its territory and enjoy a feast. Such a cunning demon beast! If it weren't for the focus necklace, it was highly possible that he would have ended up as a pile of bones nearby, too. Chapter 299, Ice Crystal Bow. The bewitching magic spider gave up on its attack when it saw Mu Ningzhu was being protected by a special barrier. It spat out another mouthful of acidic poison in Mo Fan's direction instead. Mo Fan was given a great scare. He was not a richest like Mu Ningzhu, who could afford a piece of shield equipment able to protect his entire body. He started running instantly, knowing that his blood tabby was still active. Picking a race against a rain of poison, how exciting! When Mo Fan realized that he could never outrun the poisonous spray, he quickly transformed into a puff of shadow and disappeared into the darkness. He was currently a fair distance away, and believed that Mu Ningzhu would not be able to see him using the shadow element. As the poisonous rain poured down, everything within its reach began to corrode at a shocking pace. A single drop somehow landed on Mo Fan's foot, instantly dissolving the side of his shoe. Luckily, he was quick to toss the shoe away, or the spittle would surely have left a giant hole in his foot. Although healing magic could heal the wound rather quickly, it was not all-powerful. Anything poisonous would greatly hinder its effectiveness. Mo Fan, now running with a bare foot, was utterly infuriated. He let out a yell in Mu Ningzhu's direction. "Use your ice chains to lock it down. I'll teach it a great lesson." The mark on Mu Ningzhu's forehead was now half gone. She quickly drew her star pattern after hearing Mo Fan's words. The star pattern of the ice element crystallized under Mu Ningzhu's feet. An icy mist began to form in the surrounding air, before transforming into several long chains. The frost condensed rather quickly, fully summoning the ice chains. They dropped to the ground, clanking loudly. "Go!" Mu Ningzhu pointed with both hands, controlling the ice chains to weave through the corroded area. The first Nirvana ice lock arrived before the bewitching magic spider. The beast reacted fairly quickly by raising its claws and slashing at the chain, cutting it into several segments. Again, Mu Ningzhu controlled the ice locks to attack from different directions. Any other beast would be running for its life now, but the bewitching magic spider was facing the ice locks head-on with its 8 limbs. It quickly cut apart the chains when they approached its body. "Rise!" Mu Ningzhu suddenly pointed her finger up. An ice chain sprang up from below the ground. It quickly wrapped a few circles around 2 of the bewitching magic spider's back limbs, not giving it a chance to cut them open. "Nice!" Mo Fan exclaimed. The star pattern he had been aligning emitted a bright glow under his feet. It was a dark purple pattern, containing the most destructive force among all the elements. Qinjun Thunderbolt, Exploding Apex. Mo Fan did not cast Yaksha, as it was more suitable for dealing with more than one enemy at the same time. On the other hand, the force of Thunderbolt, Exploding Apex was more concentrated, as it only consisted of a single lightning bolt from the sky. It was a very simple attack, but the hardest to defend against. The bewitching magic spider was clearly aware of the approaching danger when the stormy cloud began to form above its head. However, its limbs were rooted to the ground, and it was unable to escape for the moment. The thunderbolt struck down without mercy. Its dark purple lightning stroke arced across the night sky. As its gorgeous flicker vanished, a destructive force consisting of both the energy of the thunderbolt and the multiplication effect of Qinjun landed right on the bewitching magic spider's head. It blasted away a huge chunk of its brain. The hole was thoroughly scorched, with blood plasma and cerebral fluid splattering across the place. Its enormous body fell heavily to the ground, raising the dust nearby. The bewitching magic spider let out a sharp cry. The thunderbolt had left it in insane pain. It would need to eat a huge amount of meat to replace the hole in its brain. The hideous rows of eyes were glaring right at the damned human who'd done that. The bewitching magic spider rose to its limbs with the incredible pain, and broke free from Mu Ningzhu's chains with brute force. It can still stand? Mo Fan was dumbfounded. In the past, even warrior-level demon beasts would be half dead after being struck by the thunderbolt head-on. He expected it to kill the beast instantly with Qinjun's multiplication. Isn't the bewitching magic spider's body a bit too insane? How is it still alive? Mo Fan quickly backed off. He could sense the fury boiling off the bewitching magic spider. Ice crystal bow. Not far away, Mu Ningzhu did not dare to preserve her strength, knowing Mo Fan was in a pinch situation. She reached out her right hand and activated the mark deep inside her soul. The frost around her turned into a vortex circling around her. It then rapidly transformed into an elegant bow hovering in front of her. The icy bow almost reached the ground. It was like a swan extending its wings while soaring into the sky. Made of ice crystals, its appearance was extremely graceful, and yet filled with a strong murderous aura. Mu Ningzhu grasped the bow firmly. The icy particles around her began to transform into arrows. The magic started with the tip of the arrow, sharp and piercing, followed by a long body fully crafted of ice, ending with its tail, which fit perfectly between Mu Ningzhu's fingers and the fully drawn string. Her silver hair was hanging behind her back, passing her waist and half covering her attractive buttocks. As she released her fingers, the ice crystal arrow sprang forward. The gust made her hair dance elegantly in front of her chest and sweep past her elegant face, exposing her pale neck in the process. The arrow pierced through the air in a perfectly straight line. The overwhelming icy aura left a snowy trail behind it, producing a shocking visual impact. The tip of the arrow drove into the body of the bewitching magic spider. Mo Fan thought it would penetrate the beast, but the arrow instead exploded. Frost spread rapidly across the beast's skin, with the impact point as its center. The ring of frost continued to expand, rapidly covering across the entire beast. The bewitching magic spider had already raised its limbs, but before it could do anything crazy, the frost completely covered its body, freezing its half-destroyed brain, and its risen limbs stiffened in the air. Chapter 300. Taking advantage of the precarious situation. The frost was like a crystal art that had appeared out of nowhere. The bewitching magic spider had turned into the most precious sculpture of the art. Its fury, its ferocious aura as a warrior-level creature, its unstoppable murderous intent, were still lingering around it. But it was now motionless. Its life force had disappeared instantly. Everything in the vicinity was covered with a layer of frost now. The pond was a shattered mirror. The stalks of grass had become some fragile, rigid objects. The rocks were turned into ice cubes. Under the moonlight, the whole place was enchanted with a still, icy aura. Mo Fan's eyes were wide. He still could not believe the power that the arrow had unleashed. Mo Fan had seen death-strike magic equipment before. Most of them were in the form of a longsword, or something with a sharp edge. When activated, they would grant the magician the ability to execute a powerful slash. Its strength was equivalent to that of a very destructive intermediate magic spell. Mo Fan had seen some of them during the auctions. The ones he thought would suit him were at least 20 million yuan. Those with unique forms were even more expensive, and there was no point going to their auctions without 50 million yuan. Mo Fan already had quite some offensive abilities, so he never paid extra attention to death-strike magic equipment. To his amazement, he had witnessed an incredibly rare bow-type magic equipment today. The bow was made of ice crystal particles that looked like bits of diamond. The moment the arrow was fired, it froze the whole area instantly, giving its target no chance to react. Words were not needed to describe its killing force. The problem was, Mu Ningzhu was merely an intermediate magician. Why would she even have such a piece of insane equipment? If she were to use it during the duel before, she could have instantly wiped out the entire team from the Pearl Institute. The ice was not even the Nirvana ice which she had, but an even higher tier of ice crystal. Since it was able to crystallize everything, it implied that the grade of the ice seed had surpassed the spirit grade. Mo Fan did not expect Mu Ningzhu would have an even stronger ice seed, on top of the Nirvana ice. That did not sound right, either. If she had a stronger ice seed, there was no reason for her to hide it. There would be more casualties if they did not eliminate the bewitching magic spider in time. Phew. Mu Ningzhu's hair fell and returned to normal. The disheveled hair drifted across her face, which somehow made her look even more lovely. She was panting heavily, trying to catch her breath. The red mark on her forehead had finally disappeared. Her previous empress-like formidable aura as she was firing the arrow had vanished, as if her energy had been fully drawn out, leaving her extremely fatigued. Mo Fan immediately rushed to her side and supported her when he saw her swaying. "I still can't fully control it," Mu Ningzhu murmured to herself. "Since when do you have such strong equipment?" Mo Fan asked. The ice crystal bow was definitely not something that an intermediate magician could use. Normally, if someone were trying to imprint high-level equipment, their soul would suffer tremendous torture, as it could not withstand the item's power. Mu Ningzhu's cultivation was far from being able to utilize such a thing. Mo Fan was worried about her soul. The reason magicians meditated was to strengthen their soul. The different levels of cultivation meant there were different amounts and levels of equipment they could imprint at a time. The level of equipment which an intermediate magician could imprint was restricted, as they were unable to endure the force of a death-strike item possessing a power equivalent to an advanced magic. The power that Mu Ningzhu's bow displayed was not as strong as an advanced magic, but it was not far off. Her soul would be enduring a great burden if she actually imprinted it. "I just need some rest." Mu Ningzhu sat on the ground. She would pass out any second now, judging from her extremely pale look. Mo Fan stayed beside her. He was full of questions as he stared at the depleted Mu Ningzhu. The bow was somehow different from the equipment he had seen before, but Mo Fan, who had little knowledge, couldn't describe what the difference was. That being said, his instincts were telling him that the bow might be tightly related to why Mu Ningzhu had changed so much over the years. On top of that, Mu Ningzhu's ice seed was not just a simple spirit-grade soul seed. If an item's element was the same that the magician had, its power would be enhanced further by the magician's element. The ice crystal that Mu Ningzhu had cast was stronger than her nirvana ice. Even a relatively strong warrior-level bewitching magic spider was killed instantly, enough to highlight its outstanding force. It was surely Mu Ningzhu's trump card. She was only using it as her last resort. That alone was obvious just by looking at her current state. She had been keeping a lot of secrets to herself. Mu Ningzhu had rested quite a while, but Mo Fan still did not dare to leave, as she still could not stand properly. Sometime later, her eyes finally sprang open. She quickly glanced at Mo Fan and shifted her gaze. She could still recall the boy she used to like when looking at Mo Fan's face. The feeling was concealed deep inside her heart, so deep that she thought she had forgotten it. At times, the feeling would rise out of nowhere, creating a ripple on the frozen lake in her heart. She was utterly grateful that he was looking after her. As a matter of fact, she had always been grateful to him. In their younger years, Mo Fan was already different than the rest of the kids. He was fearless, and never acted logically. The kids in the neighborhood would look at her from a distance, not daring to get close to her. Mo Fan was the only one who completely ignored the warnings and advice of the elderly. He would drag her around with his filthy hands and chase away the loneliness and fear of her childhood. He was full of nonsense, he swore a lot, he was naughty, but he had the courage to bullshit by her side. There was no special reason why Mu Ningzhu liked him in the past. It was simply because Mo Fan was the closest boy to her. The others would only keep their distance from her. They would either try to fawn on her, pretend to be cool around her, be too embarrassed to talk to her, or put on an act. Mu Ningzhu shook her head, trying to get rid of the thoughts. Maybe she was recalling things because of the lingering effect from the bewitchment? Let's go. I'm fine now. Mu Ningzhu rose to her feet. Mo Fan subconsciously offered his hand. Mu Ningzhu did not take it. The intimacy between them was all in the past. They were grown-ups now. They had their own lives to live, their own rules to stick to. There was no need. Mu Ningzhu was trying to maintain the distance between them, but as usual, she was helpless against Mo Fan's unpredictable moves. A filthy hand reached out and grabbed her smooth hand, while the other grabbed her shoulder. Mu Ningzhu had totally run out of energy. Otherwise, she would definitely hang this asshole who was taking advantage of her precarious situation up in the air and beat the crap out of him.